In this video, some of the female protagonists of the Netflix series Arcane and their characterization will be emphasized. This show is known for its unique animation style, a soundtrack with a wide range of musical talent, and a high-quality characters and story. But before discussing the story and its characters, I want to take a second to talk about the community surrounding this show. Arcane is an adaptation of a popular competitive team-based game called League of Legends, created by Riot Games. This game is known for its wide range of 163 unique playable champions, amazing game cinematics, and its strong and influential fan base. In 2022, League of Legends had a monthly player count of approximately 152 million people, with 87% of the player demographic being male, 12% being female, and 1% non-binary. However, despite its varied champions and lore, a lot of the female characters are often designed with a sexual gaze, wearing very little clothing or armor. This sexualization even occurs with one of the lead characters from the show, Jinx. However, her character design changes in the show to better fit with the themes and motives of the story. This specific concept will be discussed in further detail later in the video. Even the story writers for League of Legends and Arcane are aware of the sort of content that they have previously been releasing for their game.
Riot in general kind of struggled to put out long-form narrative content. Our goal was to have deeper storytelling, right? To not just do video game action. Or as we at the company tend to call it, fight porn. I don't know if we call it that anymore, but that's what it always was.
The reason I think Arcane is an important show is because the world it is set in has no systematic gender binary, and while the female characters of the show do exist in common female tropes, the plot and choices every character makes actively neutralizes the stereotype by well-developed, nuanced characters and their interactions. In Arcane, a character's gender just happens to be what it is, and it doesn't affect their life experiences, availability to resources, or their own agency. However, this doesn't mean that the story writers did not choose to highlight women's relationships accidentally. This sort of storytelling and characterization of female leads is important for both general audiences and the niche audience of League of Legends because it exposes them to female characters or perspectives that are allowed to live in complexities, who can find or create their own resources and connections, who can decide what happens to themselves and what they can do for those they care for. Welcome to the wonderful city of Piltover. A powerful society is housed here, and they're on the brink of a technological revolution using a new discovery called Hextech. However, there is a delicate line between Piltover and its dual city-state that lies across the river, the nation of Zon. This place is where the privileges and resources of Piltover don't reach, and where a new drug called Shimmer threatens to overtake the civilians of the Undercity. Political tension rises as the Zonites grow increasingly discontent with the state of their devastated society after the failure of the rebellion against the Upper City. Discovery and danger intertwine as new heroes are born and familiar bonds are shattered. There are several thematic questions that are being explored throughout the show. Piltover versus the Underground, Science versus Sisters, Sanity versus Madness, War versus Peace, and Prejudice versus Compassion. I want to highlight some of my favorite female characters from the show and their stories, just to give great examples of high-quality story writing, as well as display the new sort of characterization, especially for female leads, that the teams behind Arcane are providing for their audiences. I will try my best to avoid major spoilers to the plot of the show, as I hope this video encourages you to give the show a watch and to experience the richness of these characters and their worlds for yourself. Our story starts with Vi and her younger sister Powder, whose parents are killed in the Underground's uprising against Piltover. A man named Vander, who led the uprising, takes the two siblings under his wing and raises them alongside Milo and Clagger, who are other additions to this found family. Vi is the older sister to Powder and whose character represents leadership and protection. And Vi has a stereotypically masculine way of approaching her goals. She uses strength and violence when necessary. She's confident, sometimes flirting just to get under people's skin.
You're hot, Cupcake. So what'll it be, man or woman? So, we got a deal, pretty boy?
Her relationship to Vander is highlighted in the show, as he has direct ties to the tension between the upper and lower cities, and Vi learns a lot about protecting those she cares for from Vander. Despite this father-daughter relationship, Vander never takes away from Vi's agency. Throughout the show, Vi never really does what Vander asks her to do, but it never because it is what he asked her of. Rather, it is simply Vi upholding her morals to stand by those she holds dear. In this show, female characters are never empowered at the expense of men. The audience is introduced to Vi through her protective nature. After a successful job, Vi and her gang get stopped by other trenchers who attempt to steal their payload. After taking several ugly blows but still fighting back, Vi wins, even daring the attackers to try for more.
Want to see how that ends?
At this point, the audience now believes in Vi's inner strength, and thus can respect her outer strength. After Vi is separated from her sister, she spends years in prison, where longing for her family, hatred of the enforcers and Piltover, and her own physical power strengthens. Young Powder is scared of not contributing enough to her family, where strength is valued, and after years of bickering between siblings, she has grown to second-guess herself, and sometimes fails to realize the realities of her and her siblings' situation.
It's all right, Powder. At least you're okay.
Okay, what about us? I get my face bashed in and she just gets a pass?
Yep.
Every time she comes, something goes wrong. She jinxes every job.
Just drop it, Milo.
Notably, these major plot points are ones that Vi puts the group in, and they happen to be matters of violence, of life and death, where Powder is way out of her league for simply being a young child in a cruel world. After Powder causes catastrophe, Vi makes a heat-of-the-moment decision to leave her younger sibling behind, and is compromised before she can change her mind. Powder is left defenseless, before another broken soul picks her up and promises to change her future, and thus Jinx is born.
We'll show them. We will show them all.
Jinx is a madwoman who is haunted by her past, letting it control her emotions, relationships, and actions. The artists of the show actually scratched on the film, creating what fans have termed Jinx's scratches. This is a visualized realization of Jinx's abandonment and loss of self. The character of Jinx avoids the archetype of the manic pixie dream girl because she actually experiences mania. She hears voices and sees people who aren't actually there. Her body has developed a trauma response because she has lived through something that no one should ever have to experience. Jinx is allowed to live and function in a state of madness by her second adoptive father, Silco. While Jinx is still a separate and unique identity, her madness is a tool for Silco to use to get what he wants. Even if that means Jinx doesn't really listen to anything Silco says, usually she does the opposite and causes chaos. Jinx is the female character that comes nearest to being dependent on a man, but this is neutralized because she had a defined and dependent relationship with her sister first. This makes Jinx want for a dependent relationship a part of her actual character and experiences, not because she is a woman. From the game to the TV series, the character design of the two sisters changed slightly, but in important ways. Vi's new character design allows her to actually function in the spaces and situations she finds herself in. One of my favorite moments from the show is when Vi fights another Undercity woman named Savika, who is Silco's right-hand woman. Both of these women use their brute force and have a different body type that isn't represented enough, or done in a good way. At the end of their fight, and when she is near defeat, Vi is saved by another woman. I think that this fight is a great example of how the women in the show function in complete independence. Vi's body type changes from the game's design, being slim with curves to a muscular young woman with big arms and legs, and she has tattoos from her time in prison. Jinx, while her overall design does not change much, her new character design in Arcane allows her to have a messy appearance, with strands of hair coming loose and bags under her eyes. The CGI artist that worked on Arcane rigged Jinx's face that she can go easily between young Powder's face, which is typically scared, and her new older face, which is longer and has a more blank expression. Jinx does not have to be a perfect appearance with flawless skin and smooth hair that never comes out of place. There are so many other women in Arcane that I wanted to talk about, but this video would be 20 minutes long if I did. They all bring another element to the story, and they neutralize the tropes that they inevitably exist in, and the relationships that they make are the focal point of the story. The team behind this show have now set a new standard when it comes to characterization in general. While I did not discuss the many different male characters, they are also great examples of men who exist in stereotypes and who actively counteract it. This show has shown the care for creating the character first, before making a design that could take away from the richness of their identity, and where every interaction disputes gender norms for characterization. This is important for the audience of Arcane, wherever they have come from, to see that female characters can exist in a space that isn't objectifiable, and how story writers can make active and good decisions on who is allowed to be and do what. I can only hope that in the future there are more stories out there where it is prevalent that the creators took their time to consider everyone in their audience, and how the story they tell can and will change the way a niche, androcentric audience will react to it and consume it.